Welcome everyone to the channel. Let's start with a simple situation familiar to each of us. Imagine you're driving, enjoying your favorite music, and suddenly someone cuts you off sharply, forcing you to slam on the brakes. Or imagine another scenario. You come to work, open your email, and see a message from a colleague full of passive aggression and unfair accusations. What happens inside you at that moment? Most likely, you feel an instant rush of heat. Your heart starts racing, your muscles tense, and one single thought flashes through your mind. How dare he? I must respond. I must put him in his place. In our modern culture, we often perceive this outburst of rage as a display of strength. It seems to us that a loud shout, banging a fist on the table, or a harsh retort to an offender is proof that we won't be taken advantage of. In movies and books, anger is often romanticized. A hero, driven by righteous fury, crushes enemies and restores justice. Anger seems to us like fuel, energy, a powerful engine that helps overcome obstacles. We're afraid to appear weak if we keep silent, so we choose aggression as a defense mechanism. However, if we turn to the wisdom of the ancient Stoics, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, we will discover a completely opposite view of things. For these philosophers, whose ideas have survived millennia, anger was not just a harmful emotion. They considered it the surest sign of the weakness of the human spirit. According to the Stoics, a person who gets angry does not demonstrate strength. They demonstrate their fragility, their dependence, and, most terrifyingly, their defeat in the face of external circumstances. In this video, we will delve deep into Stoic philosophy to understand why they considered anger a temporary madness and why true strength lies in absolute tranquility. Let's start with a fundamental definition. Seneca, one of the greatest Roman Stoics, dedicated an entire treatise to this topic titled On Anger. He did not mince words, calling anger the most hideous and insane of all emotions. Seneca asserted that other vices are manifestations of human nature, albeit distorted, but anger transforms a person into a beast. Look at an angry person, Seneca suggested. His face is distorted, eyes bloodshot, veins bulging, voice breaking into a shout, movements jerky and uncontrolled. Does that look like strength? No, it looks like destruction. Seneca compared anger to a falling building, which, as it collapses, shatters itself and crushes everything beneath it. The main argument of the Stoics against anger lies in the concept of control. Stoicism teaches us to divide all things into two categories: what is within our power and what is not. Our thoughts, our judgments, our reactions, these are our zone of responsibility. The weather, traffic jams, exchange rates, and, most importantly, the behavior of other people, these are external factors. When you allow another person's behavior to provoke an outburst of rage in you, you are essentially handing them the remote control to your state. Think about it for a second. If a stranger's rude word can spoil your mood for the entire day, who is truly the master of your life, you or that stranger? Epictetus, a philosopher who was born a slave and knew more about unfreedom than anyone else, spoke very harshly about this. He taught that anyone capable of making you angry becomes your master. If you react with anger to an insult, you acknowledge that the offender's words have power over you. The Stoics saw this as the highest form of weakness. A strong person is like a rock against which waves crash. The waves may roar, foam, and strike with immense force, but the rock remains unmoving. A weak person is like a small boat tossed from side to side by every gust of wind. Anger is a sign that your boat has lost control. Many people object, but anger is useful. It helps us protect ourselves. Seneca foresaw this objection. He compared anger to a weapon that grows onto your hand and cannot be put down. Imagine a sword that starts chopping enemies on its own, but also wounds its owner. Anger does not obey reason. Once you let it in, it takes over. You might think you're using anger as a tool, but in reality, anger is using you. The Stoics believed that reason is the only thing that distinguishes us from animals. Anger, however, disables reason. In a fit of passion, we make the worst decisions, say words we regret for years, and destroy relationships we've built for decades. Can the ability to destroy your own life in 5 minutes be called strength? Let's delve deeper into the mechanism of anger's origin. Why do we get angry at all? The Stoics believed that the root of anger lies in our false expectations. We get angry because the world doesn't conform to our picture of how it should be. We expect people to be polite, roads to be clear, technology not to break down, and children to be obedient. But the world is a chaotic place. People can be foolish, selfish, and inattentive. Technology breaks. That's the nature of things. When we encounter reality and shout, "This is unfair," we behave like spoiled children. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who daily faced intrigues, betrayal, and incompetence from his subjects, wrote amazing things in his diary. He told himself every morning, "Today, I will meet an intrusive, ungrateful, insolent, treacherous, envious, unsociable person." He didn't get angry about it because he knew such is the nature of people. Getting angry at a rude person is as foolish as getting angry at a thorn for being prickly or at fire for being hot. The strength of a Stoic lies in accepting reality as it is. This doesn't mean we should tolerate injustice and do nothing. This is a key point that many misunderstand. Stoicism is not passivity. You can and should punish criminals, defend your boundaries, and dismiss negligent employees. But, and this is a huge but, you must do it without anger. Seneca gave the example of a judge. A good judge convicts a criminal not because he hates him, but because law and justice demand it. He does it with a cool head, weighing the facts. As soon as a judge starts to get angry, he loses objectivity. Similarly in life, actions performed with a cool head are always more effective than chaotic thrashing in a fit of rage. Anger is a sign that you are taking the situation too personally, that your ego is bruised. A strong person doesn't need to shout to be heard. He doesn't need to anger to act. Another aspect of anger's weakness, according to the Stoics, is that it harms the bearer much more than the one it is directed at. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes that provoke it?" Think about situations when you lost your temper. Someone broke your favorite cup. It's unpleasant, it's a loss. But if in response you create a scandal, spoil the evening for the whole family, raise your blood pressure, and then suffer from guilt, the damage from your reaction far exceeds the cost of the cup. Anger is an acid that corrodes the vessel in which it is stored. A person who is constantly angry lives in a hell that they themselves created. They are constantly tense, they see enemies everywhere, they can't relax. This is the life of a slave to their passions. A free and strong person knows how to let go. They understand that peace of mind is worth more than being right in an online argument. But how can one achieve this state? How to stop being weak and dependent on emotions? The Stoics were not only theoretics but also practitioners. They developed specific mental tools to combat anger. The first and most important step is a pause. Seneca advised, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." When you feel the first pang of irritation, don't act immediately. Don't send that message, don't say that phrase, just freeze. Anger is like a flash of gunpowder. It burns brightly but quickly. If you give yourself time, even just 10 breaths or a walk around the block, the fog will clear and reason will return to you. At that moment, you can ask yourself, is it worth it? Is this really such a tragedy? We often get angry about trifles because we attach too much importance to them. Strength lies in the ability to see the true scale of things. The third tool is analyzing the motives of another person. We often attribute malicious intent to people. It seems to us that we were cut off specifically to humiliate us. But Socrates, whom the Stoics considered their teacher, said, "No one does evil willingly." People do bad things out of ignorance, out of their own traumas, out of thinking that it will be better for them. The person who is rude to you in line might be having the worst day of their life. Maybe their child is sick or they just lost their job. Understanding this doesn't necessarily excuse their behavior, but it extinguishes your anger. Instead of rage, you start to feel pity or indifference. And that is already a position of strength, not weakness. You don't stoop to the level of the offender, you remain above it. Furthermore, the Stoics reminded us of our own imperfections. Seneca said, "We are all bad people living among bad people." This might sound pessimistic, but in reality, it's a liberating thought. We too can be rude, inattentive, and irritable. We also make mistakes. If we want to be forgiven, we must learn to forgive others. Anger often arises from pride, from a sense of our own infallibility. How could he do that to me? Acknowledging our own imperfection makes us gentler and calmer. Let's return to the main question. Why is anger a weakness? Because anger is reactivity. It's an automatic response, an instinct we share with animals. A dog barks when provoked. A snake bites when stepped on. There is